What's up, guys? Welcome to the Sports 2.0 show. I am your host of today's video, Tanner Kern. I'm joined by my father, Jim Kern. We're breaking down the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. Jim, father, dad, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
You came on, you made your debut for the Indy 500 show. The people wanted you back for this show, but they're a little mad at you because you picked Scott Dixon to win the Indy 500. He was not in it in the latter half of the race. He barely raced that day.
He wasn't
and
in
you
it.
told everyone that you're gonna make, if you bet, what was the exact quote that you used?
You're not gonna lose money betting money on him.
And I lost money on the DraftKings Sportsbook in Indiana. It's legal. My first legal bet ever. I placed it. We went all in on Scott Dixon to win, and you blew it for me. So thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate it.
It's racing luck. Unfortunately, he got out of sequence, had a bad luck, and that's racing. He ran strong all day, but he was working his way back up to the, to try to unlap himself. And, the race was so clean, fastest race in Indy 500 history. It was a clean race. He had no opportunity to really make those laps up. And I mean, he made the lap up, but he's just kind of stayed in the back of the pack. But, that's racing. He still had a strong run. So
now we saw one of the best Indy 500s in the past, in all 105 runnings of them, I believe. We saw Helio Castroneves get his fourth, joining Rick Mears, Al Unser, and AJ Foyt as the only four-time champions. We saw the fastest race ever. We didn't see a lot of crashes, which was great. The one thing I was a little disappointed about, though, was Colton Herta. He didn't perform well. Do you think he's able to bounce back this week?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he was strong, obviously, on the street course in St. Petersburg, and this is basically a street course. Modified street course. So I think you'll see him back up top, and I think he's one of the favorites. There's no doubt coming into the weekend.
Now, before we get into the breaking down the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, the point standings, all that good stuff, I want to get your thoughts because you saw two four-time champions now in your Indy 500 tenure. Is that right?
I have. Yeah. In fact, I witnessed history twice. So 30 years ago, I saw Rick Mears win his fourth over kind of a pass with two laps to go over Michael Andretti, and we witnessed a really back and forth battle with Alex Palou and Helio Castroneves winning his fourth 30 years later. So the last two times I've seen a four-time champion, so it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and it couldn't have been a better race for me for my first one. So let's get right into the point standings. We got to talk about that before we talk about the Detroit Grand Prix, because as you know, racers have two goals: win the Indy 500 and win the overall NTT IndyCar Series Championship. That goal is done. The first goal is done. The Indy 500 is over. Helio Castroneves captured that title. Now it's all about the point standings and all about winning the NTT IndyCar Series. So we got Alex Palou in first. Palou ran really strong last weekend. What were your thoughts from him?
He should have won the race. I mean, honestly, he had it. He ran strong all day. He had great pit stops. He was right up there. He obviously, had a win earlier this season at Barber Motorsports Park for the first. So he's a driver to look out for. I was excited to see Helio win, but I would have been totally happy seeing Alex win the race also.
I think that was not the consensus amongst the 140,000 fans at the Indy 500. Everyone that I saw wanted Helio to win that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Helio came in second three different times. Yeah. He's, I think it was over 10 years since his last win. So it was really quite a feat. And in fact, his first win was in 2001, and his last win was 2021. So, I mean, 20 wins from his first, or 20 years between his first and last win is quite an accomplishment in itself. Being 46 years old, I think he's the second oldest winner in the race.
Yeah, now we got another old guy here, Scott Dixon, arguably, though, the best driver in IndyCar right now. We're going to talk about him a little later, talking about if he's able to bounce back after his rough weekend in Indy. But when you look at Scott Dixon, he did win this race last year, one of the two. What do you think's going through his head right now after a rough race in Indy, thinking, I got to race again? And, I'm still in the mix for the Series Cup, which is just as valuable. It's one of two goals that these guys have every year.
He's been in it long enough. I mean, he's a 40-year-old, 20 some years with with Chip Ganassi. I think that he's going to easily put Indy behind him, and just focus on what's at hand and race the day. And he's not even looking forward to the second race of the weekend. He's going to he's not a champion because he's looking ahead. He's working on one race at a time. So I think you'll see him be very, very strong as a three-time winner here. He's run second multiple times, so you don't have to worry about him worrying about losing out on Indy. I think he put that behind him that first night.
Then you got Pato, Simon Pagenaud, Rinus VeeKay. Rinus, not a great showing in the Indy 500, just like Colton Herta, the young guys that we expected to be pretty good, did not race well. At one point, it looked like they were in the race. They were running really strong, going out really hard. And then it was almost like, you went to the bathroom after a caution and we came back and they were not in the race anymore. So what were your thoughts on them in the Indy 500?
Well, I think, generally, Alex was a second-year driver there. Rinus ran very strong. Obviously, Rinus won the Indy Grand Prix a couple weeks before that. Really strong, good car, good equipment with Ed Carpenter team. And, I think you'll see the young guns continue to show why they're young guns. Whereas, the Indy 500, sometimes you got to have a little luck, but, experience definitely matters when you're going 230 miles an hour around a track for 500 miles. So the road courses are a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then in the rounding out the back, you got Newgarden, Herta, Rahal, McLaughlin, and Ericsson. One person I want to briefly touch upon right now before we get into him a little later in the show, Josef Newgarden, another disappointing run in the Indy 500. A lot of people thought this was going to be his year. Did not turn out that way. Still has not captured that Indy 500 title, but he is one of the best drivers in the sport right now. Do you think he's frustrated that he hasn't been able to win the big one, or is he back and focused on winning another cup?
I think he's back and focused on another cup. I mean, the thing is, as a team, Penske struggled in the Indy 500. Quietly, Simon Pagenaud finished third, but basically everybody else was not in the top 10, and it was a struggle. Will Power struggled from the get-go. His car didn't start. He had to pit before the race started. Came back and ran strong all day, but he was playing catch up. Josef Newgarden kind of the same boat, and Scott McLaughlin had a good day for a rookie, but overall, and he was rookie of the year. But they struggled as a team, so I think you'll see them bounce back for this weekend. Penske's have always been strong at the Detroit Grand Prix, and I think overall, Josef Newgarden, these guys don't live in the past. They live for the moment. So I think all of them will be focused on what they've got to do today. And as disappointing as an Indy 500, because there's only once a year, they're not thinking about what happened 2 weeks ago. They're totally geared up to do what they need to do today and tomorrow. So.
Yeah, and they will have a double header this weekend. Quick question for you as the IndyCar expert here. Why don't they call it the Duel in Detroit anymore? Because I really miss that name. The Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix just doesn't have the ring that the Duel in Detroit does.
I know. You know what? It comes down to sponsorships and money. Money talks. So, the Duel in Detroit, unfortunately, doesn't pay, even though probably it's a slang, or a lot of people still say it's a Duel in Detroit. But, Chevrolet, Detroit's the home of Chevrolet. It's, the home of Penske Enterprises. They put a lot of money in this course, and it's an exciting, weekend. They also have Indy Lights this weekend. They've got IMSA, so it's actually a really big weekend for fans. And I also heard that they're not requiring masks at the track this weekend. So I think COVID's over in Detroit.
Well, did they really require the mask ambassadors didn't even wear their masks in the Indy 500. It was if you wore a mask, you were in the minority there.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, but anyway, I think that's it's still the duel in Detroit to a lot of people. But ultimately, Chevrolet sponsoring it, and it's a big event for the car industry in full. And obviously, Chevrolet is in a lot of the cars. It's either Chevrolet or Honda. So it's they would love nothing more to see than a Chevrolet win this race.
So we got 2 races this weekend, like you said, big weekend. The thing about Bell Island in the Detroit Grand Prix is you have to be perfect as a driver. There's not a lot of straights. There's a lot of braking zones, as you can see here right from the Indy website. 70 laps of 2.35-mile course. There's 13 turns on a temporary street circuit. Very difficult course. What do the drivers need to do to get the job done? Because this is truly a race where you can be on that last lap and you can be leading. One small mistake is going to cost you here and could cost you the race.
Well, I think in general, it's just not being stupid. You've got to drive defensively, and there's not a lot of places to overtake. So, ultimately, you've got to be able to take those shots when you get the opportunity. But you could easily crash yourself and 5 cars out at one time in the wrong spot there. So, ultimately, it's staying clean the entire race, and you stay clean and you're fast, you've got an opportunity to kind of be at the front. And pit stops and pit stop strategy is always important. So the teams that make the right move when they make them, you don't know on a street course. Typically, sometimes you don't get a full course yellow. You get isolated yellows, and restarts on a full course yellow sometimes are obviously important too. But as it comes down to, it's a little bit of luck and a lot of skill, and not being stupid.
Yeah. Now, the drivers had a week off between the Indy 500 and the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. The Indy 500, I equate that to a marathon. That's an event where they're there the whole month. They're getting ready for it between the GMR, the Indy Road course, and then getting into the race, the qualifying, all that. This is a sprint this weekend. You're going to go 2 races. You're going to qualify the same day as your race, and it's going to be a strenuous weekend for these drivers. Now, what do you think's going through their head in this situation where it's like, okay, we got a race on Saturday and a race on Sunday? How are they preparing for that mentally?
Well, I think mentally these guys are used to, being in cars all the time. And, there was a duel in Texas over, earlier in May, or it was the last weekend in April, I think is when they had their race. So, I mean, they're used to doing this. But, ultimately they've got their setups. Their setups aren't going to change much between, race 1 and race 2. Typically, if you're strong in one day, you're going to be strong the next, depending on the conditions and the weather. And you see that just by some of the former winners and where they finish. Scott Dixon obviously has won here 3 times. He's finished second a number of times, and has won at least one race in the last 2 races that they had, although, because of COVID, they didn't have a race last year. So, he won in 2019 and 2018. Graham Rahal won both races in 2017. So, ultimately, if you're going to be strong, you're probably going to be strong in both races over the weekend.
Now, what do you think the year off does to these drivers? Obviously, they get to walk the course, do a lot of practice runs. Half of them have raced here since 2013 when the event started every single year. But the thing about this race is, you take a year off from a course. Is that going to affect you on race day, you think?
I don't think it is. These guys are professionals. They study these courses. They're running these courses on their simulators in the off season. What I think you will see is you've got, and I don't know the exact number, but I think you've got close to 10 people that are going to be brand new. You got 10 rookies that have never actually run this race before. So that is going to be a factor because of, just where they finish. And, sometimes even if you're a rookie, you can qualify quick, but racing is another story. So, you might have a couple guys that don't have a lot of experience on the course running it in a race, qualify up front and top, but then they get in the race itself. They could be strong, or they could, fall back. And that's where, the young guys sometimes, they're not using their head, they're using their foot. And, they can kind of get in trouble. But, I guess we'll see how things kind of play out. So.
Now, do you think Palou, VK, and Herta all 3 of them finish both races this weekend, or one of them makes a huge mistake and doesn't finish and ends under caution?
I think you got a good shot of all 3 of them, doing a good job. But, there's I think a possibility that one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 will not have good races in both races. Mm-hmm. That's an opinion, but you got you've got 7 former winners in the race, representing 12 races. Most of them are in good equipment, so you've got a lot of competition with experience winning these races. out there. And then you've got some rookies and first year drivers that have a lot of experience that are technically rookies that potentially bring something to the table here.
So when we look at Scott Dixon, I really want to focus on him because, like you said, best driver in the sport right now, 100%. Did not have a good weekend in Indy. How does he bounce back in the Grand Prix? Do you think he makes a statement, has two really good races? Do you think he lets the Indy 500 race stay in his head? And also, is he mad at his crew right now? Is he mad at his coach, his race advisor, all that, for making the mistake last weekend, not telling him to pit?
I had an opportunity. I'm not a big Scott Dixon fan, and I think even though I think he's a strong driver, however, I've recently watched the Scott Dixon documentary, and I've got a different appreciation for him, his preparation, his team, and how his team responds to adversity and also responds to success. I mean, that team is a top team. I mean, it's Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti all the time. Those are the teams that everybody talks about. Those are the teams that everybody, wants to run for. And I think overall, is he upset at is he upset, or can he get upset at his crew? Absolutely. Listen to the documentary. He's dropping F-bombs right and left at his crew during a race. So, that I think is out there. However, I think he puts it behind him. And he takes one race at a time, and we'll see how he does. But he's a pro. He's got great equipment. He knows how to win on this track. So I do see. Is he going to win both races? Probably not. Is he going to finish strong or run at the top? Yeah, I think you'll see that for sure here. So he's in his prime. I mean, or tail end of his prime, but the dude can run cars, and he's got the mental capacity to do that. And he's only focusing on this race and one race at a time. He's not worrying about what's going to happen next week. He's not worried about the championship at this point. But I think you'll see him have a strong weekend. If not both days, definitely one of the 2 days.
Yeah. Now, Scott Dixon is one of the champions from last year. Josef Newgarden, Team Penske racer, is the other champion from not last year, 2019, defending champion of this race because they did not run it because of COVID. So when you look at the Team Penske, which driver is going to have the best weekend?
Well, you've got three out of the four drivers are former champions. So, you've got Newgarden won 2 years ago. Will Powers won a couple times. Simon Pagenaud's won. They all have the ability to win in that race. And you got Scott McLaughlin, who's actually had a really good rookie season so far, in his first race here. So look for that team to be important. But, Newgarden's got some stuff to prove because he can't win the Indy 500 this year. He's got to win the championship, and, he's strong enough to do that. And I think you'll see that. And I think in general, if you look at kind of the winners out there, Penske's been strong in this race, and they're running Chevrolet engines. They want to make a statement. So I think you'll see that happen for sure.
Now, if a Honda driver wins this, how mad do you think Chevrolet gets?
Well,
at their race.
It is what it is. But there's nothing better than having a Chevrolet win at their home Grand Prix where they sponsor it. So, and I think the Chevys have been a little stronger on the road courses than they have been on the ovals anyway. So I think you'll see that it evens it out a little bit for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into the odds according to PointsBet Sportsbook. Thank you to PointsBet for supporting the Sports 2.0 network. We're going to be talking about the race winner for race one. So race two odds aren't obviously up yet, and they have not qualified. So the starting grid has not been set. That's going to be before the race tomorrow. So let's get right into it. They got Scott Dixon at the top of the list at plus 460, at 480. With Scott Dixon, when you look at Dixon, he was the favorite last week. He's the favorite this week again. Does the favorite usually win? What's your thoughts on that?
Does the favorite usually win? I think the favorite usually runs strong, and he's too good. The team's too good, not for Dixon to run strong. And quite frankly, the odds makers would be ignorant if they didn't put him, at the top or near the top based on his former performance, his history with the race itself, and the fact that he's a 6-time IndyCar champion. I mean, who wouldn't do that? I mean, they can put it in the model, but in the end of the day, still a strong driver. So.
Now, when you look at Josef Newgarden, Will Power, both Team Penske guys, out of those two, I know I asked you before which Team Penske guy is the best day. You didn't really answer. You kind of skipped around it. But Josef Newgarden at plus 540, Will Power at plus 1,000. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of Will Power if you bet him and he ends up winning. But out of those two, who has the better day? Because they really were both disappointing in the Indy 500. Both of them need a bounce back weekend, and you got 2 races to do it.
Well, if they don't crash each other out, I think they're both going to be strong. I mean, they both have a lot to prove. I mean, Will Power had, he barely made the race, and he started in 32nd position. He pushed his way as much as he could all day, but he was effectively out of the race from the get-go based on his starting position. So I think you'll see both of those guys, be strong. But I like Josef Newgarden. I think he's probably a little stronger on this track. I mean, Will Power's had 2 wins here, but it hasn't been as recent as Newgarden. And I think that'll play in a little bit of the difference. Hey, they're both former champions. I think Newgarden knows how to win championships, if not, being able to win races individually itself. So they're both going to be strong though. But I'll give my nod to Josef.
Now, when I look at these odds according to PointsBet Sportsbook, I'm a little shocked when I see Palou down there at plus 2,200. A lot of drivers ahead of him, including Colton Herta, including Rinus VeeKay, Rossi, Pagenaud, Ray Hall. I know a road course is a lot different than an oval. Obviously, that's for sure. But he's probably riding high off that Indy 500. Don't you think that could be a steal at plus 2,200?
I think it could be a steal. Now, keep in mind, he got a 6-spot penalty, starting grid penalty, which is probably one of the reasons why he's down a little bit low. So he had an unauthorized Indy. He had a penalty from unauthorized change to his engine at the Indy 500. So they've dropped him down 6 starting spots, no matter where he is in the top. So I mean, if he gets the pole position, he's going to start in the 7th position. So I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that he's down there so low. But I would, if you have a little extra bucks, throwing it on Alex Palou is probably not a bad idea.
Well, because I mean, if he has a good qualifying day, gets the pole. If he got the pole or a 2 spot, I mean, he's still in the top 10. Right. And this is a tough course to pass on, though, like you said.
Right. That's correct.
Now, I want to talk about a guy who's not on the list. A fan favorite, a racing fan favorite. We got Jimmie Johnson in this race, but Jimmy is way down on the list. He's probably plus 5,000 to win. Does he have any chance?
He doesn't have any chance to win this race. No. So, I mean, Jimmie Johnson's a great driver. He's still getting the lay of the land as it drives an open wheel car. And, you can't bump your way to success in IndyCar. You bump yourself out of a race. So, he's improved. I think the experiment is good. But in the end of the day, I don't think he's got the experience in these cars yet and running around a track. I mean, he's used to big, wide open ovals, bouncing and bumping and drafting and everything else. And, I think he's improving a little bit every race. It was unfortunate that he didn't get to run in the Indy 500. But that being said, I like Jimmy, but he ain't winning this week. He ain't winning this weekend. So.
Do you think he would have won if his wife would have let him run in the oval at Indy?
Yeah, I think he would have had a little better shot at it. I mean, he's been on that Indy track, plenty of time with a Brickyard 400. So, it's just a matter of being used to these kind of cars, how they react, and if you've watched any of the races this year, he's done a decent job. I mean, he's done a lot better job than I could ever do sitting in one of those cars. But in the end of the day, it takes a special skill to drive an open wheel race car around a little street circuit. So I don't see him being a factor. Does he have the ability to run in the top 10? With a little luck, he could be there's 25 cars in this race too. So I don't see him starting, in the top 10 just because of his still getting used to driving these things. So
now I want to talk about one more driver before we pick our winners for the race. Simon Pagenaud. I think that's a very intriguing bet at plus 1,600 there. What do you think of Pagenaud? He had good Indy.
Yeah, he actually had a great Indy, considering what Penske did during the month of May. But he's a former winner. He's definitely got the ability to win a race here, and I think you'll see him be strong. I would look to the whole Penske team to bounce back and be strong as a team. And it's really a toss-up because they're all good drivers. They all have the ability to win, and not a bad bet. Look for him to definitely be strong, in one of the two races over the weekend. So
now, who is your winner of the first Detroit Grand Prix? And then we'll tweet out our answers for the winner of the second one after we see who wins the first one.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I think Scott Dixon. I'm going to go with Scott Dixon again. I'm going to see him come back and do something. I've got a couple dark horses myself in here. We didn't talk about Romain Grosjean, who is back in the car this week at the Indy Grand Prix. Which was the prelude up to the Indy 500. He started on the pole and finished second in really just his fourth race in these cars. So he's back in. He does not run in the ovals this year. Look to him to actually be strong. So I kind of like him as a favorite. He's definitely potentially a podium guy. Tomorrow. On the races, but you also see the young guys. So one of the guys between Renus, Alex Palou, potentially
Herta.
Yeah, obviously, Herta. And then you can't also think Graham Rahal. I mean, Graham Rahal was having a strong Indy race and, unfortunately had a pit stop error. Wheel came off, crashed out, but he was leading the race when that happened. And I think he led 11 laps that day. He's a two-time winner, won both races in 2017. So, you've got an opportunity there. I'm a big Graham Rahal fan, so I'd like to see him do well too.
Now, I think out of the two races, I'm going to give a general prediction for one of the races. I'm going to give a specific winner for the other. I think one of the young guns wins one of the races. So Palou, VK, Herta. One of those guys gets the job done. One of the races. The first race of the weekend, though, I like Will Power. I think Will Power had a very rough weekend. He barely got into the race, barely got in front of Simona Di Silvestro, who's not racing this weekend, in the Indy 500. Didn't have a good Indy race. We know that. But he bounces back this week. I think his car finds some speed on this track. I think the road course is going to help him out, and he gets the job done in race one.
Okay. All right. I'm going with Power.
You going with Power?
Yeah. No, I'm saying not Power. I'm going with Scott Dixon.
You going with Scott Dixon? I'm going with Power.
Scott Dixon. Yeah.
You're going with Scott Dixon. I'm going with Power.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see a Penske in the podium, and I think you'll see a Ganassi car, most likely Scott Dixon. But you've got Alex Palou in there too, and like Romain Grosjean, for a podium finish. Definitely this weekend, if not tomorrow. If he doesn't do well tomorrow, look for him to come back on Sunday, which is the second race of the track. So
yep. So that does it, guys, for our Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix preview. I will have a written article coming out tonight previewing the whole event, kind of some of the topics we talked about, and a few extra takes that I'm going to have for the race. And then make sure to subscribe to the Sports 2.0 Network, guys, on YouTube. Got a lot of great content on there. Probably some of the most well-rounded sports YouTube channels you're going to find: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, IndyCar. No one covers IndyCar except the Sports 2.0 Network, really. So make sure you follow us, guys, on there. Any final words?
I'm excited for the weekend.
Indy's back.
And Indy's back. Get your DVR set for 2:00 on Saturday and 12:00 on Sunday. And if you can watch it live, watch it live. But definitely exciting. We're creating some momentum for IndyCars coming back into the national pastime here. You know, NASCAR's passe.
Yeah.
Let's go open wheel. It's a lot more exciting.
Yep. So that does it, guys. Go Willpower. And we'll talk to you soon for another episode of the Sports 2.0 show.